I've had to watch it in real time for 4 years. And I can tell you for a fact these people are an existential threat. I'm an old Bennite. I'm never voting Labour again. Not in my life. Not after watching this happen. Never. Not once. I don't care what things Labour promise me. I don't care what's going to happen to me personally as a direct consequence of voting the way I'm going to vote. I am never voting for this. Not ever. My name is Christopher Benjamin Carr-Jenkins. I'm a former Labour Party member and activist. I'm most famous on the far left for rigging the Labour leadership election for Jeremy Corbyn against the challenger Owen Smith. I crowdfunded loads of money and gave it away in £25 instalments to Jeremy Corbyn voters using my Facebook page. I always liked Tony Benn. I always liked Tony Benn. He's very honest. He's a Christian and he wouldn't lie. He's a Brexiteer. He's anti-EU. He understands the importance of democracy. The reason I'm making this video with these people who are supposed to be my political opponents is because this is what's known as a time of national interest. And if you're a person who respects democracy, my advice to you would be don't vote for anyone who is campaigning on a platform of ignoring your vote and asking you to vote again. That is, on its face, a dumb choice to make. Because if they can do it this once and you allow them to do it, they will set the precedent. And once you've allowed the precedent to be set, someone else will ask you to vote again in future whenever the margin is supposedly as close as 1.4 million, which is not close. It's the Brexit victory margin is a bigger margin than any of the currently standing prime ministers or presidents in the whole of the democratic world currently enjoy. It's 408 constituencies out of the 650 constituencies in Britain. To suggest that was a close run thing is po-faced. It's not a joke, and you're all going to learn this. Every single one of you people on the left who've spent the last 3 years telling the Leave voting working class that they are gammon, which is a racial insult that Wahhabi psychopaths call non-believers, and you have been memed as middle-class, disconnected, left-wing idiots into insulting your core vote with that very insult. If you've spent the last 3 years saying it was a close run vote, if you've spent the last 3 years using the word Brexit or saying that the Russians rigged it, which, by the way, given the 20 million of those people died alongside your grandfathers defeating fascists, that is a particularly insulting thing to say to those people. The fact we can have democratic votes right now is largely down to the blood of those people. So you should pay them a bit more respect when you're blaming them for your own political failures. If you spent the last 3 years doing that stuff, you are a Brexit advert. You're the reason the Labour Party is going to get absolutely destroyed at this general election. You are anti-free speech, you're anti-democracy, you hate the working class that built your party, you literally despise them. The only people you hate more are the establishment class, which Jacob Rees-Mogg belongs to. Jacob Rees-Mogg speaks more clearly to the working class of these islands than anyone in your entire PLP. Every single one of you is an advert for voting for either the Conservatives or the Brexit Party, whichever one is challenging you in that particular seat. I don't care who people actually vote for, just as long as they don't vote for you, the Lib Dems, Plaid Cymru, who collaborated with the Nazis during World War II and released leaflets in Wales written in Gymraeg, which said, "This is England's war, and when the Nazis win, they will grant us our freedom." Anybody who has had any association with that form of politics is my enemy and has been the enemy of my family for the best part of 8 decades. That whenever I feel like I'm about to be exposed or revealed as someone who isn't part of the cult, one of your true socialists, whenever I felt like you're about to expose that, or that the Blairites who hate me were going to expose that, or the Remainers who in the Labour Party who hate me, which is 90% of them, were about to prove to the wider left that I wasn't kosher. Whenever I needed to do that, the only thing I ever needed to do was put up a post criticising the IDF or Israel, and it all went away. And then in the comment threads and the comment section, which I never deleted, I never hid or deleted any of your comments, your horrendous comments, which get hid and deleted on a daily basis on the Momentum and Labour Party feeds. I never hid them. So anytime anyone ever wants to see how anti-Semitic the Labour Party can be, or how anti-Semitic the wider left can be, all they need do is go look at those posts, check the comment threads, screenshot your horrendous comments, then click on your account and see that you've shared GMB Union content, Jeremy Corbyn content, Momentum content, and that you are advocating to vote Labour at this election. And all anyone need do is join those very close together dots and create a picture of an anti-Semite, which is probably you, if you are a card-carrying member of Momentum or the Labour Party. And on the case of Momentum, they're after the fact purging of people like Jackie Walker and whatnot. That fools nobody. That's just a PR exercise. You know, and you've got people who, they've got a theory for why the Jews are responsible for the transatlantic slave trade, why the Jews are responsible for international capitalism, why the Jews are responsible for the Holocaust, no jokes, for the Holocaust, that it was somehow a big gamble to get themselves the Holy Land, which is classic putting the cart before the horse. You are retrospectively seeing what happened and tying a narrative together which doesn't tie together to fit with the opinions that you held anyway, which is the Jews are bad. And that's what you people are. And I've been watching you do this from the inside for 4 years. No, not Luciana Berger, but that was another big... You know when she was pregnant on maternity leave and they tried to deselect her? This isn't coincidental. And these things are not happening because Luciana Berger is a Remainer. It's not because Liverpool's a Remainer city. It's not happening because Luciana Berger isn't left-wing. Luciana Berger is... Look at her voting record. Look at it. This is happening because Luciana Berger is a Jew. That's what you don't like about Luciana Berger. And I am sick to the back teeth of having to put up with it, frankly. I'm sick to the back teeth of, so that I can maintain a position on the left alongside you people, so that I can influence the sensible people who get drawn in by your vote Labour bullshit. I'm sick of having to post anti-IDF, anti-Israel content just so that I can maintain cover with you. It literally makes me feel ill. And the way you have all changed politics, all 500,000 of you, the way you've changed politics in Britain for the worse is horrendous, and it's going to take 2 to 3 electoral cycles to clean the fabric of our politics. It's rude to pick on people because of what their religion is or what practice is. And so just as when we say to the people who throw bacon in a mosque, this is horrendous, it's rude, you don't do it. Yeah, by the same token, if the politics you're espousing means that any Jewish school in London needs to have guards, they need permanent security. Kids need security just to go to school because of you. The reason Labour suspends people suspected of this stuff rather than expels them is because we live in a system of legal precedent. And if they were to set the precedent of suspending one person for saying this sort of stuff, they've got, I would say, anywhere up to 300,000 members who are liable to say exactly the same sort of stuff, if not worse stuff, on a daily basis on social media. They simply do not have the manpower to process, or woman power, or people power, to process that glut of administration. Yes, it's rude, it's un-British. Racism is when the people used to put dog shit through the letterboxes of the Windrush generation. The reason that stopped was because the general feeling of the people on these islands is, you're on the island now, we should just get along. Work hard, pay taxes, integrate as best you can, talk about the weather, try not to eat on public transport. You know, the rules are pretty basic. Like, look, if Welsh people, English people, Scottish people and Irish people learned to get along on these islands, like I said to you before, we're the original European Union. We mastered not killing each other over being different a good 4 or 5 centuries before Europe ever even thought about doing that. And that's why we had the first non-white member of parliament. That's why we, in like 1832, that's why we've had, even though integration for the immigrant communities that came here, especially in the 20th century, those early phases of them coming here, yeah, it was hard, really hard for them. They had to deal with the brunt end of really nasty people. And the rest of society looked at what those people were doing and went, nah, we don't really buy into that. Sorry, that's not what we're about. And it's not radical. It's just sort of human. And I genuinely believe that people, everyone on these islands, the white working class, the middle classes, the immigrant communities in the metropolitan areas, they all buy into a sense of Britishness. If they didn't, the crime rate would be obscene. The clashes between the communities would be obscene. If you can go and see, look, for example, in France, when that French police officer marched onto that beach and ripped that hijab off that Muslim lady, everyone in Britain was like, whoa, now. Police officers aren't supposed to be telling people what to wear. Even people who disagree with hijabs and niqabs were like, look, that's not how you do things. And that thing they say about Boris Johnson that somehow proves he's a racist because he said to him, a full veil looks like a letterbox, but I'll defend to the death the right of anybody to wear one. The whole thing of twisting that into a Boris Johnson is a racist narrative, this is what we're dealing with here. They've rope-a-dope this issue, and they've made it so that you can't see the wood for the trees on this issue. There's loads of people saying there is anti-Semitism, and then they get those people to go on Question Time and be like, I'm Jewish, I haven't witnessed any anti-Semitism. And it's like, well, great, bully for you. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? What about believing the victims, guys? I thought that's what we were supposed to be doing, but no. Right, so this video is Israeli police casually lob stun grenades into crowd of Palestinians, right? And they're not clearing the space. They've been asked to clear the space. The space needs to be cleared for security reasons. And they were being warned. But what you do here is you take the last 30 seconds of that interaction. So instead of showing you all the time, hours probably, where the IDF were like, please move, you're going to have to move. Instead of showing all that, you don't do that because that provides context. In context, it's really easy to prove something's bullshit, it's not very true when there's context. So what you do is you cut it down to the last 30 seconds, right? In the last 30 seconds, one of the IDF servicemen throws the stun grenade in to try and clear the blockage of the walkway, and sure enough, the walkway clears. Funny that. So what you do is you put it up with that without the context, with just the 30 seconds. There's no mention of Ian Austin in this post, none whatsoever. But this post was put out directly as a response to Ian Austin, when Ian Austin says, please, I'm going to vote Boris Johnson this election because, you know, obviously Labour is overrun with anti-Semites, obviously. So in direct response to that, you put this up. And then from my point of view, from cover, what that says amongst the hard left is Naib Avenue's still on our side, we'll still keep sharing their content, and then I can carry on undermining the Labour Remainers from the left within the Labour movement. And if you want to pass muster, if you want to be able to get past the shibboleths and the coded language that's used, you have to do this sort of stuff, because if you don't, they're going to expose you as a Zionist. And on the left, if you get outed as a Zionist, you are screwed. On the left in the UK, if you are outed as pro-Israel, you are screwed. Bernie Sanders is currently getting hammered for a tweet where he said the rockets have got to stop from the Palestinians and the IDF need to, be nice. Right? He said something that added up to that. It's from the last couple of days. The date today is the 20th of November. If you look on Bernie Sanders' Twitter feed, you'll see it. He's getting shellacked in all of his own forums on the American left for daring the false equivalence of saying that. And so this is how this works on the left in the UK and to a certain extent in the wider English-speaking world, is if you want to get in traffic, you can't be pro-Israel. You simply can't. It's probably the only rule. And so this post has nothing to do with Ian Austin. One of the top performing posts references Ian Austin. Why? Why reference Ian Austin on this post? If not because you don't like Ian Austin. Why don't you like Ian Austin? Because he's part of Labour Friends of Israel. That's why you don't like Ian Austin. Same reason why you don't like Luciana Berger. Same reason why you don't like Joan Ryan. Same reason why you don't like any of them. And for my sins, I've spent the last 4 years helping you people do this stuff. And it is soul destroying. It's soul destroying. It is not anything anyone in the wider citizenry will ever vote for. Criticism of the Israeli fascist state is not anti-Semitic. Well, I would put it to you that call in people defending their children from rocket attacks who have an Israeli defense force specifically because they got gassed by the score of 6 million in camps. I would say daring to call people like that fascistic or fascists or Nazis is a form of anti-Semitism, because you are calling a group of people who were wiped out by another group of people the name of the group of people who wiped them out. And it beggars belief that someone even needs to go through the linguistic simplicity of spelling that out to you. It's horrendous. And this is the first post. This is one post. I've been doing this 4 years. I've scrolled down one scroll on the first post, and this is where the conversation is. And you want to pretend that this isn't a problem, that you aren't overrun with people who conflate criticising the right-wing policies of Benjamin Netanyahu with criticising all Jews and the entire state of Israel. There were 1 million of you marching against the illegal invasion of Iraq. Would you like to be tarred with that brush, given that you protested against it? No, you wouldn't. If anyone ever said to you, you've got the blood of 500,000 Iraqis on your hands, you'd argue the point. So why can't you extend that same logical structure to the Israelis? Why, when you speak about the Israelis, can you not resist talking about Jews? Why did everybody who did that have to get purged from the Labour Party for the rest of membership to learn what the new coded language was? That's all this is done. These purges and these suspensions and these lack of kicking people out properly. What all of that is about, it isn't about dealing with the anti-Semitism problem. It's about teaching your borderline inherently anti-Semitic membership what they can and can't say in public without embarrassing you. That's what it's about. Okay, this looks like an interesting comment, which is you've put this up. This is from Harel Amitay. As someone who supports Corbyn myself, I don't think most left-leaning Jews are concerned about his support of a Palestinian state or an end to the apartheid occupation in the West Bank. Now, again, apartheid. One, that's an insult to all of the blacks who suffered under apartheid. Anyone from South Africa who lived under apartheid would tell you for a fact it's not what's going on in Palestine. But you're not allowed. And they won't. Here's a big thing. The ancestors of those people won't if they're in Britain and they're in left-wing politics, which statistically speaking they're going to be, because they'll know it's against the rules. Where one of the groups fights one of the other groups, which what I'm doing right now is against the rules. I'm working class Welsh guy. I'm not supposed to be here speaking down this camera to you people. It's against the rules, because now I'm a class traitor. So he's right there, calling it apartheid. That's anti-Semitic, because it's not apartheid. And if you want to see what apartheid is, you can look up what happened there. Go and talk to Peter Hain and ask him if what's going on in Israel is apartheid. Because Peter Hain would know, but you all hate Peter Hain because he's a friend of Israel. Thank you for posting. Corbyn has been criticised for being friendly to Sinn Féin, but supporters would argue that this was in the service of getting peace talks off the ground. Do you think comments about Hamas, Hezbollah can be understood in the same context? So immediately in the next comment, you've got someone trying to get him to climb down on him saying Hamas and Hezbollah are obviously anti-Semites. These people say they want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. And Jeremy Corbyn has referred to them as his friends. Why is this even a debate? This guy has called two groups of people, Hamas and Hezbollah, whose stated aim is, and I quote, wiping Israel off the face of the map. Jeremy Corbyn has referred to them as his friends. Case closed. It's not a debate after this. And the fact this debate is still a debate shows that these commies are winning. This can't be a debate. I can still see I am fully convinced you. And no, but I mean like that you know that we're still going to have to do more to win this.
Yes.
And that is the failure. That's their victory. That's the victory of Jeremy Corbyn. That's the victory of his supporters. That's the victory of the modern left in the UK, is that we know that we're still going to have to work to prove this. And the burden of proof is insane. It's an insanely high burden of proof where you can post proof and it's not proof. And I hate to get cliched, but George Orwell warned us about this. George Orwell said this was going to happen. Winston Smith's job was deleting words and rewriting it in a different way to come up with the new think. And that is what I've had to watch it in real time for 4 years. And I can tell you for a fact these people are an existential threat. I'm an old Bennite. I'm never voting Labour again. Not in my life. Not after watching this happen. Never. Not once. I don't care what things Labour promise me. I don't care what's going to happen to me personally as a direct consequence of voting the way I'm going to vote. I am never voting for this. Not ever. One of the only things I think that is as vitriolic as the anti-Jewish sentiment on the UK left. And I don't want to use the term hard left, okay? Because this is not on the hard left. This is on the left. So let's stop the mealy-mouthed words that we hear in the media about how this is, the hard left, fringe people. People who look like me, probably. No, it's not us. It's all of them. It's from to the left of Tony Blair across, all the way to the ones who've got Stalin or Lenin as their profile picture. The anti-English sentiment, they hate English democracy. You use the word Anglo-Saxon, you're immediately a racist. I'm Welsh, so when I speak about the Anglo-Saxons, I'm not necessarily speaking about white English people. I'm talking about the people who live in England, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but Raheem Sterling plays for the English football team. He used to clean toilets with his mum. When you see them talking about working class English footballers, that is when you will see it. The same writers who write for the left in the Mirror and in the other newspapers like the Independent, you'll see it on the sports pages. The dripping contempt they've got for those working class kids who dare to earn more money in a week than they're ever going to earn in a year. How dare they? And then if you compare and contrast the way they will write about Phil Foden's spending sprees compared to Raheem Sterling's, what you'll see there is that they've got an anti-working class English sentiment, which then splits up into an anti-working class black sentiment, because Raheem Sterling his spending, it gets written about a lot more than Phil Foden's spending. They both spend the same stuff. They're young guys who've tried for 15 years to become the best in the country at what it is they do, and they've succeeded, and they get remunerated very well for it, and they're working class kids who've done well, and I'm not jealous of them. I'm happy for them. I'm proud of them, that they are part of the society that I'm in, and because they were better at a thing and their family supported them in doing that thing, they're really good at it, and you all hate it because they earn a lot of money. Rainbow Coalition, worst case scenario. So you've got the working class that voted Leave, you know, the white nationalists, the ethnic nationalists, the BNP, the proper fascists, you know, not those guys you disagree with on Twitter because they proved you wrong in an argument and they just happen to be white, English and middle class. I'm talking about actual fascists. Those people want you to succeed in stopping Brexit because they know that a large chunk of the Leave vote is going to be so angry at having democracy deleted, they're going to be prime for the taking. They're going to be there. And do you know what the ethnic nationalists are going to say? They're going to say, see, we told you so. And millions of the working class that voted Leave will go, all right, yeah, you've been telling me for 30 years that there's a conspiracy against me. There's a Kalergi plan against me. All right, yeah, I see it. They've deleted my democracy. I suppose there's a valid point there. And that cannot be allowed to happen under any circumstances. And that is why it is an existential threat to the very fabric of this country to have the Labour Party win this election outright. Well, that would be an absolute total disaster. Come in as part of a rainbow coalition with the Scottish nationalists who, along with the Welsh nationalists, colluded with the Nazis. Oh, isn't it strange that that's two of the left-wing parties that are actually Nazi colluders? I've got it in their literature, their campaign literature, that they dared to put out whilst this nation was at war. It beggars belief. And if you want to know why the anti-Semitism is such a difficult argument to win for the people who can see that it's obviously there, you want to look at that. That's why that is. Of course, it's going to be easy for the Labour Party to cover up its obvious anti-Semitism when two of the other largest parties in the House of Parliament, two of the other recognised parties in the House of Parliament, one of them the third largest party, the other one supposedly the Party of Wales, who wouldn't get elected dog catcher in Wales. Those two parties still stand in our Parliament and they colluded with the Nazis. They should be banned. Well, the obvious stuff about the economics is just par for the course. Like, everybody knows that stuff. It'll be the restrictions on free speech. You'll have set the precedent that your vote is allowed to be ignored, so they'll ask you to vote again. And in the future, if you love the NHS, well, here's a nightmare scenario for you. If you let them tell you to vote again on leaving the EU, at some point in the future, someone's going to ask you to vote on whether the NHS should be privatised. And if that comes out 52% no, 48% yes, all of the arguments you've used to rerun the European referendum will be used against you. And you won't have anything to say. It's dangerous. The internationally recognised definition of anti-Semitism, that goes. The intimidation outside the Hebrew schools, that'll increase. You'd be a brave man to wear your kippah. I'd say that. If you're in a marginal constituency where the Tories are in the second place and you've never voted Tory in your life, which I haven't, hold your nose and do it because it's for the national interest. You never vote for anybody who tells you they don't respect your vote. You do it once, you might not ever get asked to vote again. Ask the people in Russia. Ask the people in Germany between 1933 and 1945. Ask them, and they will tell you. Don't ignore their answers, and don't come up with historically rewritten pieces of nonsense to insult their answers. Go and ask those people. It's to me, it's on its face dumb. It's dumb that it's even a debate. Just like, to me, it's dumb that it's even a debate that anti-Semitism is a problem. We're in a tricky situation because if they win, it's a nightmare, and if they lose, it's a slightly less worse nightmare because they're never going to stop. These people are going to have to be beaten every 5 years. And maybe in 2 to 3 electoral cycles, 15 years down the road, we'll have changed enough of the political landscape that we can at least get back to some sort of semblance of civilization. But at the moment, you're watching the fabric of the body politic come apart at the seams. You can't put up with this stuff. You can't. You know what I mean? It's like when your politically incorrect grandfather tells a really racist joke when you've brought one of your friends round and they're not white. And you have to say, Grandpa, we've got guests in the house. Behave yourself. Right? You have to, right? Jeremy Corbyn's avoided doing that for 4 years. What does that...
What about when he says, I reject all racism and all its forms?
No, he only ever says that when he's being questioned on anti-Semitism. And what that is it's a pivot, an obvious pivot, and it's a pivot. It's the anti-Semitic equivalent of I've got black friends. It doesn't cut the mustard, mate. It doesn't. It's not an answer. My grandfather flew 36 bombing missions over Nazi Germany for the democracy on these islands. Please do not vote for somebody who cannot respect democracy. It's pissing on his sacrifice. And I would be really heartbroken if that happened. And I wouldn't have any hope left. And I don't want to not have hope left. I've seen what happens to people without hope. And you would make it so there's millions of them here. Where are they going to go after that? What's going to happen after that?